Hi, and welcome to today's Biznology Digital Marketing webinar. I'm Mike Moran, the founder of Biznology and a senior strategist at Conversion, a leading social consultancy. I'm the co-author of Search Engine Marketing, Inc., now in its third edition, and the sole author of Do It Wrong Quickly. I worked at IBM for 30 years, including 8 years at IBM.com, retiring as a distinguished engineer in 2008. I speak and consult on content marketing with Fortune 500 companies worldwide, so if you've ever struggled with how to segment your content marketing, this is the webinar for you. But before we start, I need to recognize our sponsors. Barn Raisers, a full-service digital and social media solutions company that builds brands using proven relationship principles and ROI. Gagalamp, which empowers companies to amplify their social media content by leveraging employees, partners, and resellers. Try Gagalamp for free today. Gerris Digital, a full-service digital strategy firm that reaches deeper into the conversation than any other agency anywhere. Marketing Executives Networking Group, New Jersey Chapter. We aren't just about networking to land a great job. We're about staying current to grow in our careers. As we wait for more attendees to join, let me review the format of our webinar. Our Biznology webinars last just 30 minutes. You can easily fit them into your busy schedule. We record each webinar and we'll email you that link later this week. While I'm speaking, you can use the GoToWebinar controls to ask a question. That orange arrow opens and closes your controls. If you have a question, simply type it into the box labeled Questions at any time during the event and press the Send button. I will answer a few selected questions at the end of our webinar. While we're waiting for the last few attendees to join, I'd like to remind you that the Biznology monthly newsletter and daily articles are available for free at Biznology.com, so if you're not already a subscriber, we hope that you'll sign up now. Thanks again to all of you for spending 30 minutes with us. We know how valuable your time is, so let's get going. Many of you are probably interested in content marketing. Many of you have probably even tried content marketing. In fact, if you're a B2B marketer, studies show us that 93% of B2B marketers use content marketing already. The problem is that only 42% say that they think they're effective at their content marketing efforts. And this is actually a pretty large gap. I mean, if you think about most of the things that you do in a day, how many of these activities that you do day after day after day, would you think only half of the people that are doing them think that they're doing them well, when this is a big part of their job? And so this is clearly an area where we've got a lot of hype about it, we've got a lot of people talking about it, and obviously a lot of people doing it, but not too many people are satisfied with the way that we're doing it. Not too many of us are happy with the way the results are coming out. And so all of this kind of leads us to ask, why isn't it working? If it's not working for such a high percentage of the people, then what is it that we should be doing differently? What is it that's actually wrong? Well, a good friend of mine, Mark Schaefer, has been talking recently about a concept he calls content shock. And I think this is actually a really, really important idea. So content shock is actually his name for what it is that's happening with our audiences. People are consuming 10 hours of content every day. 10 hours. Now, think about what that means. If you're consuming 10 hours of content a day as an individual, it doesn't leave you a lot of time to do other things. And so what I think is starting to happen here is that the time that we're spending doing our jobs is more and more engulfed in consuming content. And so we're starting to think about consuming content as something that we do for a living. But there's a limit to how much anybody could consume. I mean, if you're already consuming 10 hours of content a day, and this includes both things you're doing on the job and if you come home and you watch TV for a couple hours at night, if you're consuming 10 hours of content a day, I don't think in a few years you're going to be consuming 20. I think that you're still going to be consuming 10, maybe a little bit more. But here's what the trend is that should really catch our eye. The production of content is guesstimated to be going up by 600% by 2020. So in the next 5 years, there's going to be 6 times as much content out there as there is now. So what does that mean? I think it means that maybe today marketers are already producing more content than their audiences consume, but I got to tell you, by 2020, I guarantee it, there's no way that the audience can absorb this much more content. Now, maybe that wouldn't be a big deal if it was free to produce this content, but you all know, at least the 93% of you that are doing content marketing, you know it's far from free. It costs a lot to produce high-quality content, and if you think about what's happening here, the more content there is, the harder it is for you to be seen among all that sea of content. And so how are you going to be seen? Well, the natural thing for you to decide to do is, well, we'll just have to make the content even higher quality. We'll have to spend even more money on it because that really high-quality content is what's going to get noticed. And that is true. But one of the things you can do when you're listening to anybody give you marketing advice is ask yourself, if everybody followed that advice, would it still work? So if everybody spent way more money on content, if everybody goes ahead and builds more content, if everybody creates higher quality content, constantly, more and more quality, would that still work for you to stand out? The answer is no, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. If everybody did exactly what the advice would be, which is to create more content and to make it higher and higher quality, you'd still run out of minutes in the day for your audience to consume it. And so I think we need to find something else. I think we need to conclude that you can't win on volume. You can't people the same thing, and you can't do the same thing your competitors are doing. Because that's the point. If everybody did the same thing, it wouldn't work. And so what you need to do is you need to figure out how you're going to get the right content to the right person at the right time. And I would add, without costing you your right arm. I mean, there's only so much in the budget for marketing, no matter what kind of marketing is the flavor of the week. And so content marketing is going to be subject to the same kinds of budget constraints that every other kind of marketing is. So if people are planning to have 6 times as much content in 5 years, I would argue that that's not a realistic plan. Nobody's going to have 6 times the budget for content marketing unless they're taking away from everything else they're doing. And nobody's going to be able to increase that budget to have higher and higher quality. It's just not going to happen. So I think people think that they can just produce more content. They think that they can just make the content higher quality, but that's not actually how you win. Here's how I'd argue that you win. You win by targeting. You win by really finding who the customers are for you. And so there's 4 ways that I want to talk about targeting. Differentiation, personas, buying stage, and your message. And so understand, this is advice that if everyone takes it, it will still work. Because everybody can have a different differentiation. They can go for different personas. They can be focusing on their buyer's journey. They may have different buying stages than other companies do. And obviously, they can have different messages. Now, I'm not saying that if everybody takes the advice that their companies will succeed. We know that's not going to happen. But what I'm saying is that their marketing can succeed. So that's really what we want to focus on. How can we reach just the people who will buy from us? So let's start with differentiation. The first thing to understand about differentiation is that most of us don't know what the marketing definition of differentiation is. Most of us think of differentiation as how we're different. And that's not enough. I mean, I have 4 kids. I used to tease my kids by saying, yes, you're unique just like everyone else. And that's the problem with just focusing on differences. All of our products and services are different from the competition. They would have to be. it would be very painful to try and make things the same. It's very, very hard. I mean, you look at all these knockoff products, we're actually trying to make them the same, and they're still not the same. And so, of course, they're different. The marketing definition of differentiation is a difference that a market will pay for. That's what it really means. And so when you're thinking about what your differentiation is, what you really need to be focused on is what difference do you have that your market will pay for? What is a difference that you have people lined up around the block because they really need that difference? What is the kind of problem that your product is better at than someone else? What is the situation that your product handles better? What's the kind of customer that your product is better for? What is the industry that it's better for? I mean, there's all sorts of ways you could be differentiated, but you have to first accept the fact that you're not trying to sell to everybody. I mean, if money comes in from these other places, that's great, but your marketing is not going to be one big whitewash across the entire canvas. What you're really trying to do is to focus on who the people are that are uniquely positioned so that they will benefit more from your product or service than other people. And so one way to ask yourself the question is, which market segments would be complete idiots not to buy from you because you are so much better at solving their problem than your competitors that the only reason they wouldn't buy from you is if they just didn't know about you? That's the first place to go with your marketing. Here's an example of why it's better to differentiate, just from a point of view of volume of content, budget, and effort. If you think about the marketing as being on the left side, the promise, and the delivery of whatever it is, the product, the service, that has to actually meet those promises on the right side, you can see that making a pretty small promise all the way over on the left actually results in a lot of work to actually deliver something that meets that promise. Now, here's the thing. What if you don't go after just your differentiated customers in your marketing? What if you try and go after like lots and lots of people? Well, here's what happens. You can see that at the point where you're crossing the line, first of all, there's a lot more marketing to do. And the marketing is actually a lot harder because you don't have as much you can say about those other markets because you're actually not differentiated for them. So it's harder to get a case study. It's harder to get a white paper because you can't find clients who will even talk to you about that. For a case study, for a white paper, you can't actually find enough reasons why you're differentiated for the oil and gas industry because you're kind of not. And so it's harder to do the marketing right where it crosses the line. But look how much harder it is to do the delivery. The delivery is way harder because you actually are twisting yourself into a pretzel to try and solve this problem that maybe your competitor solves better than you. So this is why focusing on just that white sliver means it's easier to do the marketing and you're going to be able to do the delivery more easily too. Now once you start to dominate that white market segment, yeah, sure, go into those brown segments, go into the other ones that absolutely make sense. Start doing them adjacent to yours, but do it over time. You don't have to do everything all at once. Next thing you want to look at is targeting by persona. Now, most of you probably have personas. So this is an example of a persona. This might be a persona for a tech company where they may have some software that you're trying to sell, for example. And so if your software is actually kind of a new thing, it's not maybe something that people know about, then maybe this is a good persona for you. Maybe it's somebody who is not afraid to try things, willing to go out on a limb a little bit. But these are things that you can understand about your persona, and this helps drive how you do your marketing. If you're trying to market to everybody, then you're probably marketing to nobody. And so instead, if you can pick out one or two personas that you really want to go after and drive your marketing around that, that can really, really make a difference in how easy it is to do your marketing, but also how persuasive it is. Now, one of the areas that I think people fall down on is they don't think about the fact that their persona shouldn't be something that's just dreamed up out of thin air or something that a bunch of smart people got around a table and said, oh, I think this is our persona. No, what you really need to do is to ground it in data. So Can you pay attention to who's coming to your website? Will you know who the visitor is? Do you have a way for them to sign up or sign up with a social logon? Do you have a history? Can you know who the returning visitors are? Can you see what they've done when they've come to your site before? And can you look at the context? Can you look at what they're doing right now? That could drive what kind of marketing message you want to put on a particular page. So if you use data to really build up your personas, and obviously there's loads of market research that you can do to do this as well, that can really help you to focus in on the kind of people who would be crazy not to buy from you. The third way to target is by buying stage. Now, many of you probably have what is typically called a buyer's journey. Here's an example of a buyer's journey. This is a really simple one. So learn, shop, buy, get, use, right? So this could be something where they're learning about the problem that you solve, they're shopping and comparing you versus other companies who can solve the problem or other types of solutions. Then they're starting to wonder, you know, who they should buy from, whether they should buy online or offline, and so then maybe they're waiting for something to be shipped to them, then they're using it, and while they're using it, they may be coming back to your website and asking questions about it. So all these are, this is a fairly generic type of buyer's journey, but the question is, are you using it? And if you are you recognizing that you need different content at each of these different stages? The same content that might push people over the edge from shop to buy and actually purchase from you is probably not the same content where they were in the top, where they were learning about a problem that your product solves. And so the question is, are you focused on targeting your content discreetly to these different buying stages, and are you measuring which content moves people from one stage to the next? So here's a different kind of buyer's journey. So some people talk about their buyer's journey like this. They didn't know who we are. They're trying to figure out how they're going to decide which solution to choose. They evaluate the options based on that criteria. They choose something, and then after they're using the solution, they'll be resolving issues, right? So this is just other words, a different company that use different words than learn, shop, buy, get, use. Now, when they look at this, they can figure out from just looking at traffic from one web page to another who's going from one site to the next. And so as they're doing that, you can figure out which content is being able to help them go from learn to buy, from unaware to determine criteria, right? If you know which content is targeted at which stage of the buyer's journey, then you can also check to see how many people who viewed that content actually go to the next stage. That can tell you which content is working. And that's useful because you'd like to know which content's working for your marketing. There's another reason why you'd want to do it. I don't know if you've noticed this, but a buyer's journey looks suspiciously like the sales funnel that the sales team uses. And so as they're doing that, what is it that they're focused on? Well, what they're focused on is doing the exact same thing you're doing with the buyer's journey. They're trying to get people to move from step to step in the funnel. Well, it's just different words for the same thing. Wouldn't it be useful once you figure out which content is moving people from step to step online through your buyer's journey? Wouldn't it be nice for you to tell the salespeople who have bucketed a set of clients in the leads stage, here's a bunch of content that we saw helped people move from unaware to determine criteria. So maybe you should send the leads some information that maybe says, here's how you can think about picking out a so-and-so solution. Here's the thing that most people do when they're trying to decide which solution's best for them, right? So it's helping them to move to the determine criteria stage by giving them content that helps them determine their criteria. And maybe they'll even respond back and say, boy, that was really helpful. You know, let me tell you, I have a particular situation that I want to ask you about, and now you've suddenly got an engaged person in the funnel moving things down. So you can figure out which content's working on the marketing side and then have that move to the sales side, because now you know which content's working and which content your salespeople ought to be suggesting to different clients that are at different stages of the sales funnel. Last area is messaging. And this one I think is the one that's probably most well known. I think almost everybody on this call probably knows what A/B testing is, or multivariate testing. And so that's a critically important type of targeting, is that you might figure out that different kinds of people, different stages of the buyer's journey, different differentiation responds to different type of messaging. Now you could do simple things like on this screen by varying the style and colors around the download button, and so that's kind of the A/B testing and multivariate testing that I see most people doing. But you can also be doing things like, I'm going to test different industries with different case studies. I'm going to test different white papers on different personas. So you can do bigger types of A/B testing to understand which types of messages are the most persuasive for people that are already segmented by some of these categories that we've talked about. This is a really important idea, and it's something that I see very few companies doing. So as we come to a close here, what I really want you to think about is that all of the things that you're doing start with the right content marketing. So all the things people talked about having a budget, having enough volume of content marketing that you have, you're attracting search engines, you're attracting some of the right people. That's all really important. Having quality content marketing, all important, right? So the solution starts with all those things that you've probably heard about before. What I'm trying to tell you is that I believe that content marketing has to finish by targeting the right people. That it's not enough to be an expert fisherman. You have to know which lake to fish in. You could be doing a great job in content marketing, coming up with beautiful messages, wonderful things that people have told you how high quality it is, but if you're not fishing in the right lake, if you're not going after the right people, the right targets in your market, there's really no fish in the lake. It doesn't matter how good a fisherman you are. And so this is really what you have to follow. How are you going to fish in the right lake? How are you going to find the right targets? How are you going to segment the right people so that this is where people need to go? And with that, what I want to do is get ready to move to questions. I can see I've already got a few good questions from our audience, but it's not too late for you to ask your own question by typing it into the question box in your GoToWebinar controls. Before we get to the questions, I'd like you to know about my new video course on content marketing. The Internet has now reduced distribution costs to nearly zero, so content marketing is within the reach of even the most budget-challenged companies. All you need to do is understand how to identify your audience, learn their content needs, and meet those needs, which is actually what this course on content marketing will do for you. Learn how to reach your audience with quality content that won't break the bank by going to bit.ly/cmcourse1 for more information. Look for your 25% coupon code in the follow-up email from us this week, and you'll get 25% off this very course. Now, before we get to the questions, we need to thank our sponsors once again. Barn Raisers, a full-service digital and social media solutions company that builds brands using proven relationship principles and ROI. Gagalamp, which empowers companies to amplify their social media content by leveraging employees, partners, and resellers. Try Gagalamp for free today. Eris Digital, a full-service digital strategy firm that reaches deeper into the conversation than any other agency anywhere. And Marketing Executive Networking Group, New Jersey chapter. We aren't just about networking to land a great job. We're about staying current to grow in our careers. Now on to your questions. Here's our first question. If it's so simple to just go after your differentiation, why don't more companies do it? Well, I have to tell you, I think it's because it's scary. We'd all like to think that we can be all things to all people. I mean, I know in my own business, I would love to be able to tell people, oh, hey, you need to do email marketing? Sure. You need to do install a marketing automation platform? Definitely. I'm your guy. I would love to be able to say yes to every kind of marketing out there is, but the truth is that what I'm really good at is content marketing, search, social, personalization, return on investment. Those are the things I'm really good at. And so my website ought to be emphasizing that. My marketing ought to be emphasizing that, even though it's a little scary, because you feel like if somebody finds you and they really like you, but you don't list email marketing, well, maybe they won't buy from you, and that's true. Maybe they won't. But the thing is that if you try and list everything, then it looks like you're good at nothing. And so by focusing, it really helps you to tell people, hey, this is what I'm really, really good at. And so when people are looking for that thing, the thing that I'm differentiated for, because I'm better at it than other people, then they'll actually buy from me. I'll be attracting the right people. But it's a little scary because it means that you might be turning off other people, and we really would love everyone to love us and buy from us. And so I think that's why more people and more companies don't differentiate. Let's see, next question. Differentiation, personas, buying stage, and messaging sounds good, but it sounds hard to do all of them at once. Well, I guess, well, I mean, take the course. Maybe you'll learn more about it, or hire us, right? I mean, if it really sounds that hard for you. But, I mean, I got to tell you, I don't think it's that hard. I really don't. I think the reason it seems hard is because you feel like you need not to do all 4 of those things at once, but I think you're feeling like you need to do it for your entire business at once, and you probably don't. If you're a large company or even a medium-sized company, you don't need to be overwhelmed at that, because all you need to do is pick, say, one product or one product area to start in, and then choose one differentiator, like one thing that product's differentiated for. Choose one persona based on your data. Choose one buying stage. Maybe you just want to focus on the learn stage and trying to attract more leads, or maybe you want to just focus on closing people that have already been comparing you. And then you can start testing one type of message. Only test case studies, only test white papers, or only test a particular campaign that has a focus on a certain time frame for people to buy. I mean, make it very simple. Start doing something on a small scale. Narrow everything down and start with that. And that's going to do a lot better for you than if you try and boil the ocean and do everything at once. Let's take another question. Here's one. Let's see. We don't have a CRM system, but we do have a sales force. What do we do? Well, if you don't have a CRM system, it's possible that you're not as rigorous as someone with a CRM system would be in order to put together the stages of the funnel. And maybe you're not focusing on tracking your clients as well as you could. And so putting in a CRM system would probably be a good idea. I mean, in our business, we use Batchbook. It's a very low-price CRM system. You don't necessarily have to have something very, very expensive. You can buy something that's just, $20, $30 a month and still have a decent CRM system. There are even a few out there that are virtually free. I know Zoho CRM's $5, so I mean you can $5 a user, I think. And so if you have a very small business, you can still do this. But even if that is outside of your budget, put together a spreadsheet. Name the stages of your buyer's journey and start identifying who the leads are, what their contact information. Put in follow-up steps for each one. Try and see how people are going from stage to stage. You can start this even without a CRM system, but you have to have some place where you're organizing it. Let's see. Here's one. Is content marketing good for B2C also? Yes, it is. Now, one of the ways I specialize is I do a lot more work for B2B than B2C. But in a lot of ways, it isn't really a difference between B2B and B2C. What really is the difference is between what I call high consideration and low consideration products. So if you have a high consideration product, it means that it's a little bit risky, maybe it's expensive, maybe you don't buy it very often, maybe it's something that you need to learn a lot about before you're ready to buy. So you can think about buying a house or buying a new car. Those are things that people don't do all that often. I mean, but it can be other things too. It could be things like, deciding to renovate your home or choosing a funeral parlor. It's things you just don't do that very often, but you really, really care about them being done properly. And so content marketing can be really, really valuable in those types of areas. And that kind of content marketing is very similar to B2B content marketing. But other B2C products where you're buying them all the time, it's more of supplies, it's a constant thing. Sometimes content marketing can work for that if you're trying to get people to choose yours for a different reason, but often content marketing goes differently. It's trying to be entertaining or humorous, or it's going in a different direction than the content marketing that I tend to focus on. So content marketing works for both. I have much more experience in the kind of solve the problem, differentiate type of content marketing than the kind of content marketing that says, hey, we put on a free concert for you. That's all the time we have for today. Thanks for all the questions. I want to really thank you in the audience for your participation and your questions. If any of you had questions we didn't have time to answer, you can still email your questions to Eileen@MikeMoran.com, and she'll be sure to get them to me for the answer. Later this week, we'll send you all a link to the recording of this webinar to listen to again and to share with others. We also invite you to mark your calendars for our next Biznology webinar, Link Building, Past, Present, and Future, scheduled for 11 a.m. U.S. Eastern Time on April 14th. We hope to see you all back then. Bye, everybody.